are coming for rush hour.
As the rush hour crowds pass by, Billy figures out what catches their ear.
I feel like I've learned psychology from busking, from everyday people walking by and how they look at you. If you're good and you know what you're doing, which took me years to perfect, you can make real money.
To perfect his sound, Dwayne auditions new players for his act. He goes through a few musicians.
A lot of trumpet players.
Before recruiting the right team.
Constant playing for 4 or 5 hours. It can be kind of grueling.
But this dedication pays off when listeners hand over their cash.
It's still an art to be able to get them to contribute after listening. I began to get a feel for it.
Dwayne makes a living off of his music. He has to.
My first wife and I had broken up. And my son, he came to stay with me. We had one room, but I had to feed him, keep him, maintain him. So I had to work. That's how I paid my rent.
Tamara, Dwayne, and Billy know what they're doing when they play. For them, busking's more than music. It's a job.
But busking isn't just a job. It's a tradition that dates back centuries.
Paul, the ethnomusicologist, says buskers are as old as the first cities.
There were probably street musicians or buskers in pre-Roman times.
Then and now, he says, buskers have had to scuffle for respect.
Historically, buskers have been called itinerant musicians, and I think the word itinerant is a pejorative term and a term of disrespect.
The historical record of busking shows up largely in the laws that restrict it.
In 451 BC,
Table 7, concerning crimes.
Roman decree criminalized open-air shouting or poetry readings that insulted any member of the public.
Or writes a poem for the purpose of insulting him.
Punishment for this crime was public.
He shall be beaten with a rod until he dies.
For Victorian-era buskers, it wasn't much easier.
The other rhetoric around noise in the 19th century, lesser emphasis today, is that noise makes people sick and that it's not good for your health.
Public figures in 1800s London argued that buskers were a serious threat to the health of London citizens.
They could file complaints against buskers with the police, but wealthier Londoners found a different way to deal with the noise.
They would pay people to stop playing, and they would also pay the buskers to move on because that would be more time efficient rather than going to the police station.
This didn't always work.
Some buskers irritated people because they didn't move very far. They might move 50 feet or 100 feet rather than move to a completely different spot.
So a group of London's wealthy scholars, authors, and other notables moved to ban the lower-class buskers.
And there's this very famous bill that went before the House of Commons, I think in the UK, by a guy called Michael Bass, who, spurred along by Charles Babbage, was for years complaining about the noise in London.
The Bass Act gave police the power to move along or even arrest buskers and distinguished street music as noise. It drew a solid line between the music aristocratic Londoners enjoyed and the racket street musicians made.
It's very subjective, isn't it? You know, what's someone's noise or somebody else's sound?
But a lot of Londoners weren't okay with the Bass Act.
Some of the domestic servants in some houses liked liked the music. There were some people who thought that it was a concern of the privileged upper middle class who were overstating the problem.
Paul says that for many servants, street musicians were their only access to music. Buskers were like working-class musical heroes.
Street musicians don't have it as bad today, but the stigma lives on.
In most cities, there are rules and regulations about where a busker can sing, dance, or whatever else they do.
In New York City, performers can't play amplified music on subway platforms.
Street performers in New Orleans are forbidden from playing on Bourbon Street from 8 at night till 6 in the morning, so their acts don't compete with the local clubs.
Buskers in Santa Monica, California can apply for permits to perform on that beach city's 3rd Street Promenade, a long pedestrian mall. It costs $37, lasts 1 year, and comes with 35 pages of fine print.
Applicants must submit 2 passport-style photos. Once they get the permit, they can play anywhere on the mall, except within 10 feet of any bus stop, street corner, pedestrian crosswalk, residence, outer edge of any entrance.
Restrictions on busking vary a lot, so sometimes what is allowed isn't clear to anyone, including the police. Billy Banks in San Francisco knows this firsthand.
I've been starting to deal with these SFPD cops. Somebody gave them an order to go sweep the hallway for drug dealers and homeless people, and they think that I'm part of that.
But for the most part, the Bay Area buskers we spoke with say they have it pretty good. Tamara and Dwayne say the cops don't really bother them.
The place buskers are most likely to run up against restrictions is in Tamara and Billy's favorite busking spot, the BART stations.
You need to have a permit, and then you need to follow the rules of the permit.
This is Alicia Trost.
I'm the communications department manager at BART.
Alicia's department handles permits for what the Bay Area's rail system calls expressive activity.
You fill out an application and you say what station you want, what time, and we ask you to say your preference of station location.
To play in the stations, buskers have to put in these applications.
The permit's free. It's easy to apply for, and Alicia seems easygoing about it.
We enjoy the buskers. We find it's part of the Bay Area culture, and we know our riders enjoy them also.
Although she wants buskers to have permits while they play, Alicia says enforcing that rule isn't a priority for BART police.
Spending time harassing people for singing in the free area, which is allowed, isn't really worth the police officers' time. We'd rather have them off doing other things.
None of the buskers we spoke to use the expressive activity permit. Only Billy's gotten hassled for playing in a BART station.
We wanted to know how BART commuters feel about Bay Area street musicians.
It's annoying. I'm okay with it. It's interesting.
That doesn't bother me. I don't usually tip them.
I think the authorities should make a point to bar them from coming into the BART train.
Some of them are quite good. The musicians are quite good.
I think they're a nuisance.
Okay. Could you describe how they're a nuisance?
You're a nuisance, all right, so leave me alone.
Not everyone likes buskers, or people who shove a microphone in their face. But Tamara says some critics take it too far.
Before I could descend to the platform to get my ticket, on the street, some guy picks up a fold-out metal orange and black striped street sign, and he just bashes me in the back. Yeah, just smacked me good.
Tamara tells us about a night she's assaulted. Twice. At the Civic Center BART station.
And then I got down to the platform, and then this other kid comes up to me.
Tamara's not having it.
I'm like, kid, I'm not in the mood for this. And it was pretty touch and go there. He actually grabbed my gear and started to rough me up, but then I got rid of him somehow.
That kind of thing shakes her up, but it doesn't stop her from busking.
I'm not going to put up with that. I know I look like a big daisy, but trust me, this bitch can roar.
That roar can resonate down the long, marble-floored, tile-walled corridors of the Civic Center station. Billy busks in that corridor, too.
There's a lot of shit that goes down in that hallway, drugs and stuff. I've seen all kind of shit. You can kind of get away with anything for a little while because there's nobody down there.
Even playing a classy place like the Mocha, Dwayne deals with harassment.
We had a situation where a person was shooting water from an upper building down at us. He didn't like the music. He didn't like the noise. He was shooting water and nasty green stuff out of a super gun down on where we were. And the people are eating here.
Another day, Dwayne and his band have a run-in with a homeless man.
He was dirty and smelly. He had holes in his pants. His genitals were hanging out on the sidewalk. And I told him, I said, no, you got to go. So he starts hollering the N-word. Everybody on the block was turning their head, looking. The people came out of the restaurant looking at him.
Dwayne, Billy, and Tamara all separate themselves from the homeless people who frequent their busking spots. But a lot of people lump them all together. Music historian Paul Watt says this has gone on as long as street performance.
If you bundle up poverty and people who make a lot of noise and people who harass, it doesn't paint a particularly bright or rosy picture of some buskers, and it's really unfortunate that pejorative perception has often persisted till today.
Buskers tell us their appearance sets them apart from panhandlers. Dwayne and Billy notice the difference.
Couldn't afford to go without looking sharp or looking like I had something together. I would never allow anybody to come and work with me without being clean.
For our interview, he shows up in a suit.
We would go down and buy boutonnieres to make sure that people that recognize this is the job.
I can tell that factors into, like, they might not want to tip me. I look pretty well put together for the most part, and I don't have dirt on my face and shit. Not like a homeless person. You can just tell they haven't taken a shower in a long time, so I've never looked like that.
But even though he distances himself from homeless people, Billy tells us.
I mean, I'm homeless right now, you know what I'm saying? I just left my place, and I used to be down there, so I know what it's like, whatever.
We want to give a quick shout-out to Otsa Foods, an indigenous-run snack food company. Otsa uses real ingredients and native superfoods like the wild-harvested pinyon nut to promote an indigenous worldview on wellness. Otsa emphasizes that personal, communal, and environmental health share an interdependent connection.
Learn more about their tasty snacks and their mission to empower Native American communities at otsafoods.com. That's ATSA foods.com. When we asked Paul about the life stories of Victorian-era buskers, he didn't have much to say.
I personally haven't come across any autobiographical writings or any other writings about living conditions or where they live, but we don't have any substantial literature that I know of buskers and their daily life, where they lived, what they ate, whether they had children or extended family.
The same is true today. Not a lot of people tell buskers' stories, and those stories are important. There's more to street musicians than the tunes they play.
Tamara Chance is from
Sioux Falls, South Dakota.
You're freaking kidding me.
I am. There's
gosh.
no way I would kid about Sioux Falls, South SODAC.
I grew up in Brandon.
How did I get trapped in this box with two South Dakotans? Tamara grows up in the 1960s with classic Midwestern politics.
I could listen to Johnny Cash sing about going to Folsom Prison, but I couldn't listen to Jimi Hendrix, who was a USA paratrooper.
That becomes a problem during Tamara's teenage years, when she realizes that she is a she.
She's raised as a boy, but by the time she's 20, she's firm in her identity as a woman. When she tells her parents, they're convinced it's just a phase. They don't know what to do.
When they gave me a guitar, they said, just give a guitar and they'll get through this.
And that's how Tamara starts playing. She learns the guitar while she tries to work through her phase. Turns out, her parents are wrong.
I came to realize that my own sexuality was something that wasn't just a phase that I was going through, that it was really a thing about me, that I just It's like granite. It's just not going to move.
She's figured this out, but her family hasn't. So she hits the road. She bounces around the U.S. for a while before landing in San Francisco in the late 80s. She works as a cocktail